Welcome to Wild Garden Seed. Here is Markael. He has been a source of inspiration for me. We go way back. I helped him in a lab as he was earning his PhD, which he got in 2014 in biological ecological engineering from Oregon State University. And Wild Garden Seed, where he works now, is an organic vegetable and flower seed company. Mark runs his own business, Luterra Enterprises LLC. McGuire Mechanism has collaborated a little bit with Luterra Enterprises. And so this is Winnow Wizard number 105. And so I was hoping you could just kind of high level walk us through the way you developed this invention and the way that you market it.
In terms of the development, the Winnow Wizard is a complete surprise for me. If you asked me in 2008, if you asked me in 2014 when I started at Wild Garden Seed, 5 years from now, will you have your own business selling a machine you built? I'd be like, no. It was not on my agenda. And so, I started at Wild Garden Seed basically because I had an opportunity and I wanted to do something outdoors and producing a real product after, 7 years of being in the lab and doing all intellectual work, primarily intellectual and very tedious manual work. And I saw how seed was cleaned on a small scale, and I realized, I was told as the reason we don't use equipment is because it's all impractical. You have to clean it out between lots and it takes forever and it doesn't do a great job. And so we did all our screening, we did our winnowing by hand. And about the third day in the fall of winnowing in the greenhouse by hand behind a fan, and I'm sitting there, shaking a little tray, and I'm thinking, we've got to be able to do better than this. And I just sort of for my own sanity, I was like, how about we make a better airflow, and the consensus was you can't get a good airflow out of a fan because it's too turbulent. And so, having worked in microbiology, I had worked with all these laminar flow hoods, and you create an even flow of air, moving it through a grate or through a filter, and I was like, how about we do that? And so I spent a weekend and I put together this contraption with a screen in front of a fan and double-decker, and came in and started pouring seed through it. And it actually, I thought it worked better than the manual process, but the rest of the crew wasn't convinced. So there was sort of a whole 6 months in there when the Winnow Wizard was like my machine. I did it that way and everyone else did it their way. And it took a while to win people over, starting to realize that the Winnow Wizard was doing a better job. And that was a very primitive model, just had a fan and one screen. And then the requests started to come in from the rest of the crew, like, how do we make this better? How do we get stronger airflow, more even airflow, automatic feed with a hopper? And so then I had an assignment, and I started designing and building, and in 2016, I had built the second one, and that was just ahead of the Organic Seed Conference, which is international, but held here in Corvallis. And there was a tour of this farm, and some people came over, and they looked at it, and they're like, this is cool. We need to have this at the conference. And so I took it there and demonstrated, and even then, I didn't think it would be a business. I had one person come up to me and say, could you build one for me? Who was already a friend of the farm, and so I built that one that summer and sort of finalized a little bit more of the dimensions and plans. And it was another couple years, 2018, when enough people had said that they wanted this that I thought I could launch it as a business. And I wasn't all that skilled in manufacturing. I was a woodworker, and so I built it out of wood. And I just kept building them out of wood and made a business of it, increasingly, working less at the farm until it was full-time for a couple of years through 2020, 21. Through the pandemic, really kept me working on my own in a position where I wasn't really vulnerable. And the seed sales in small seed businesses really increased during the pandemic. People were worried about food security and that sort of thing. So then I did a little bit of marketing, but everyone who had one seemed to love it and tell everyone else they should get one. And so gradually, without too much effort, the sales increased. And I was surprised after working, trying to find a PhD project in biohydrogen and realizing, you know, this little project has already been done and this has already been done, and finding my little niche that someone hasn't thought of yet. And so I assumed that this had to have been created before, but it took me a while to realize that this particular design had not. Like, there are plenty of machines out there for separating seed by density, but they use different principles, gravity tables, aspirators, and just sort of automating the manual process of winnowing for some reason had not really been done. And it was quite intuitive because all of these farms did manual winnowing, and they're like, oh, this thing winnows for us. That's great. So I built them for 5 years and just set a price that I felt was fair. I wanted, you know, I didn't want to earn more than my buyers, and that's sort of an ethical thing for me. I feel like, you know, whatever hours of labor I put in need to be compensated by hours of labor savings, or, you know, I wouldn't feel right about making $100 an hour when my buyers are farmers and making, you know, 10, 15. And so I tried to set something that was fair, pay myself about $30, $40 an hour for manufacturing time, and I could afford to do that with the expenses I needed to pay. And the prices are going to be going up now. Eventually, I did. You know, I was a researcher. I was a student. I was more of a engineer. I've done a lot of things, but manufacturing was never quite my dream job. And after 100 of them, I was ready to not do that anymore. And so I have found now a new manufacturer. They're called Oppenworks, based in Wisconsin. We're in the process of getting them tooled up and producing, and the demand has surprisingly really increased. So we'll be going from maybe 30 a year to 50 a year. I bet we could do 50 this year. I haven't been marketing at all during this transition, and yet people keep ordering them. I got another 2 requests today. So that's good. I'm a little bit trying to light a fire under this company and actually get these things rolling out the door at this point. And the price is necessarily going up. You know, there's more overhead, more parties involved. It's going to have a steel frame. It's going to look a little bit more like a machine and not like something that somebody built in their shop. But I feel good about it.
You might be interested in reading more about Mark and learning about the Winnow Wizard and other inventions of his. Lutera.com. The address is on the screen. Now, while we're all together, is there anything else you want to share? Or...
You want to run it?
Yeah, let's run it.